The first emperor who conquered the world got bored and started reading novels, when suddenly he woke up inside this novel, as the youngest prince doomed to die before the story even begins. Armed with the knowledge of every twist, betrayal, and hidden threat, he's determined to outplay the plot itself. Every ally is a potential traitor, and every choice rewrites the book's ending. Will he survive the chapters that were meant to kill him? Let's find out. The story begins in a quiet palace of the Empire of Agnes, where only the quiet creaking of doors and the steps of a servant who was walking to His Majesty were heard. On his desk there were many interesting things: swords, scrolls, books. The servant approached the emperor, who was reading a book, and putting sweets on the table, noticed that he again did not touch his food. Everyone is worried about his health, so he should at least eat something. He ignored her, reading every line in the book, and then said that it was all disgusting. The servant was very scared and asked him for forgiveness, saying that she would take everything away right away, but he calmed her down, saying that he was talking about the book, Chronicles of the Hero of Frozimar. He can't even imagine how such a disgusting book could get into the palace. She carefully asked what the book was about and what had upset him so much, and he told her that the author was telling the story of the Agnes Empire in the future, 100 years from now. Like in any other novel, a knight fights the Demon King, but in this case, the empire has already fallen and is in chaos. The people are blinded by selfishness, and none of them try to help this knight. In the end, the knight loses to the Demon King and dies a horrible death. Everything is very detailed, as if the author had seen this future with his own eyes. He threw the book on the table and declared that, however, his empire would never fall, so this book was not worth worrying about. But he couldn't believe that this simple story from a third-rate novel was stuck in his head. He felt sorry for his memory. He was silent for a few seconds, and then told the maid that this was a waste of time. He would take care of the food himself, and she could go. After that, she quietly left and closed the doors, and the hall was plunged into silence again. The emperor leaned his armrest and thought deeply. He remembered how the people of the empire were happy and jubilant for him, because he had finally united all the lands except the demon lands. The fairy kingdom in the west, the fishermen in the east, and the giants in the north were now with them. They called him by different names: the cold-blooded one, the conqueror, the emperor of the black star. Their loud, joyful cries echoed in his head, and when everything became quiet, he realized something. This was the end. He had nothing left to conquer, and nothing to strive for. He looked at the book and his crown, then closed his eyes and felt emptiness, and everything around him went dark. Deep in the night, an old knight named Frito was running through the dark corridors of the palace with the prince on his back, and worriedly wondered why there was no one here. He saw no guards or barriers against invaders. It was so quiet here that his running was the only thing that broke the silence. Why is no one protecting Prince Zion at all? He continued to run and thought that this could not be. Even if he was weak, even if he lost the battle for the throne, he was still the prince of the Agnes Empire. Even if his body can't take it, he is obliged to protect him at all costs. He almost reached the door when two assassins appeared in front of him. They immediately pounced on him, and one of them swung his weapon, but the knight managed to jump aside in time. The second assassin was approaching. He joined his partner, and the two swung their swords, but the old knight was not so simple and parried the blows. But the next attack was not long in coming. He was kicked in the chest, which caused him to be thrown back, and he broke through the door to another room with his body. He called them cowards, and the assassin rushed towards him, saying that he was just lucky that there was a door behind them. Another assassin joined them and told his companions that now he had nowhere to run. They must kill Prince Zion now. Frito sat the prince down near the wall and headed towards the enemies, telling His Highness to just wait. He did not care how many people came for him, but he would protect him. After that, he entered the fight. 3 enemies immediately pounced on him, but he held back each of their blows. When he came face to face with one of them, he asked who he was, but he only told him that he did not need to know. They were both going to die anyway. They began to press the old knight, and one of them asked, "Doesn't he think it is better to just die than to live his life in vain?" While the knight was busy, another enemy rushed towards the prince and said that he would be merciful and kill him with one blow. Hearing this, Frito became very worried about His Highness and told him to run. But what a pity. He had long been unconscious. The enemy blade was about to touch his chest, but suddenly froze a few centimeters away. The assassin exclaimed, why hadn't he killed him yet? He nervously answered him that he couldn't move, and at that very moment, the prince woke up and looked at his enemy, and black stars sparkled in his eyes. He carefully pushed his blade away from himself, after which he rose to his feet, and the assassin exclaimed in confusion, how was this even possible? He became very scared. He wanted to run away, but his body simply did not move. The prince's gaze was terrifying, and then his comrades joined the enemy and attacked the prince together. He used his ability called Black Star Fall, and streams of dark energy swirled around him, which in an instant finished off the assassins. Seeing this, Frito was shocked. He clearly did not expect this from His Highness. When the enemies were finished, the prince looked at his hand and said with a smile that it was interesting. The novel Chronicles of the Hero of Frozimar began with the death of several people. So weak-willed that he could not kill an ant with a body that barely allowed him to move, Prince Agnes, deprived of even a bit of power, naturally lost the battle for the throne and was imprisoned. The captured Prince Xian, a character who is even embarrassing to call such, was awarded only a few lines in the book. According to the plot, he was supposed to die during yesterday's attack, but he, the Emperor, found himself in his body a second before the blow. His power, the fall of the Black Star, affects not only the body, but also the soul. If not for it, he would have died, becoming another line of this novel. All his senses are heightened, so this is definitely not a dream. If he really is in the novel, then even though he survived yesterday's assassination attempt, he has little time. There are 3 years left until the end of this world. The hero tried to defeat the Demon King alone and lost. Then the Empire fell under the onslaught of demons. This is bad. He does not know how much time is left before he returns to his own body, and therefore he cannot let this world collapse before that happens. He must change the course of history. The war between humanity and demons will begin in 2 years. Before that happens, he needs to prevent civil strife. But with this frail prince body, it will be quite difficult. The fall of the Black Star is also greatly limited. For a weak secondary character, deprived of support and recognition, his plan is unfeasible. But at the thought of it, his heart began to beat faster. It was a feeling he had long forgotten. Fun. He has something to achieve here. Some time has passed since the assassination attempt. First, he decided to take care of his surroundings. He needs to find the one behind yesterday's attack. He went out into the corridor with Fredo and thought that, although he was forgotten, he was still a prince. He wonders how many people were brave enough to let the assassins into the palace. Judging by Fredo's reaction, this is not the first time. The guards that never showed up yesterday must be involved. He walked towards the 2 guards standing at the door, and they noticed him and hurried to stop him. He told them about his desire to go for a walk, but the guard said that it was already dark outside. He couldn't go any further. He asked if it was more dangerous there than inside. The guard answered him that in any case he couldn't go out. An order had been given. MC didn't like his words and asked who had given that order. After all, they were his guards. He waved his hand, taking the guy's life for insubordination, and his body fell to the floor with a crash. After that, he said that he had never given such an order and headed for the door, and the second guard recoiled in horror. Fredo wanted to stop His Highness, but he opened the doors and went outside, then looked up and saw the red moon in the sky and realized what the world of this novel was like. The rest of the guards came running to the loud screams. They confidently headed towards the prince. He understood that yesterday's assassination attempt would not have happened without support from inside the castle, so he should consider everyone except Fredo his enemy. The commander of the guards excitedly asked why he killed his own guard, and he answered him that he executed him for betraying a member of the imperial family. They immediately fell silent and froze, understanding what he was leading to. MC said that it could not have happened without their participation either. For negligence in relation to the protection of the prince, ignoring the assassins and assisting them in the assassination attempt on a member of the imperial family, he will execute them too. Do they have any last words? The guard commander gritted his teeth and swallowed nervously. He realized that he knew that they were involved in the assassination attempt yesterday. In that case, he decided to kill the prince right there and then, and ordered his subordinates to draw their swords. They drew their weapons, and Xian smirked, thinking that this was all so much fun. As the guard commander charged with a furious cry, MC said that he would add another crime to the list. The man wished him a quick death and swung his sword, but before he could get close, Xian finished him off and said that today's crime was another attempted murder. As the guard commander's body fell, the hall was silent for a few seconds. The guards slowly backed away in horror. They did not understand how this was even possible. Fredo wondered, is this really the Prince Xian he knows? MC turned to the others and said that this was just an execution to make an example of him. From now on, if anything happened inside the palace or leaked out, everyone would be executed immediately. Everyone now realized that this was a completely different person. He was no longer the weak prince. He exuded the aura of a conqueror and told them that he was their master. The guards had no choice but to obey him. Soon it was morning. Xian tried to activate the Black Star, and looking at his hand, thought that everything was going well. At this rate, the Black Star would soon reach level 1. Fredo distracted him from training. He ran up to him and excitedly said that he had a guest. Lady Priscilla wanted to see him. MC immediately realized who had come to see him. Priscilla Barmel is a character in the novel and the one who would be called the Princess of Misfortune in the future. This lady was the prince's fiancée. He soon met her. She took a sip of tea, after which she said that he was probably wondering why she came to him so suddenly. She said his name and confidently stated that she had come to ask for the dissolution of their engagement. He sighed heavily, and she, noticing this, wanted to say something, but he did not let her do so and agreed to dissolve the engagement. She was a little taken aback by his words, after which he headed for the exit and said that she had nothing more to do here. He left, leaving her completely confused. She did not expect him to agree to this so easily. While Xian was walking down the corridor with a dissatisfied look, his ex-fiancee's security approached him. A man named Grego towered over him menacingly, asking him to go back and apologize to Lady Priscilla. He was indignant at the man's commanding tone and added that he could not treat a lady in such a way. He looked at him with displeasure from under his brows and said that he understood everything. And in the meantime, Priscilla sighed heavily and thought that just recently he begged her to become his bride, and now he just agreed to break off the engagement. Everything looks like he left her. She does not like this. Even if they break up, it should not happen like this. She hurried to the exit to quickly break off the engagement the way she wants, but was quite surprised when she saw how he knocked down her knight with one blow. The second immediately began to conjure to attack him, but MC was faster and struck first. He built a protective barrier in front of himself, but he easily destroyed it and threw the man aside. After which he quickly caught up with him and, grabbing his head, slammed him against the wall and said that he can't stand it when someone gets in his way. A worried Priscilla ran up to her protectors and covered her mouth in shock, wondering what was going on here. Zion ordered the guards to take them and told the lady that he had spared their lives. He was about to leave, but she asked him to wait, and he turned to her. Thinking that she was so annoying, she confidently said that she wanted to stay here for a while. He wouldn't mind, would he? As he knew there were many issues to resolve before they could break off the engagement. He wanted to refuse her, but changed his mind. If everything went well, she could be useful. If he used the trait of hers that made her the princess of misfortune in the novel, he might be able to discover the true enemy in the castle. He told her to do whatever she wanted and left, and she thanked him and added that she was in his debt. 3 days had passed since she had stayed at the palace of the Lodestar, but she had still not seen the prince. If he was doing this on purpose, then why did he even let her stay? And what was going on? She had never seen the power he had used back then. She decided to find out today and found the prince at the training grounds, explaining something to his guards. She called out to him and asked if he was busy. He turned to her questioningly and she asked him, displeased, why he had never shown himself to her. Let him not tell her he was avoiding her. If he had planned this from the beginning, then why did he let her stay? He interrupted her and displeasedly told her to watch her language. She was taken aback by his words and, not believing her ears, asked him to repeat it again. He had told her not to cross the line. He had never asked her to stay. He had simply decided not to interfere. And was he obligated to visit her? She clutched the hem of her dress, realizing he was right, and agreed with him, after which she hurriedly left. He watched her go, and then returned to the discussion. Over the next week, he ordered them to double the number of night guards. Patrols would be in teams of 3, and all guards were now required to wear metal plates covering their necks and hearts for at least 3 days. Time passed, and night fell. Several assassins quietly snuck into the palace, while MC waited for them, sitting on his throne. While the enemies were running through the corridors of the palace, one of them noticed that everything was strange. Weren't the guards more than they were told? It was as if they knew they were coming. A loud sound was heard behind him. He immediately turned around to check what was going on, and saw his dead comrade. He immediately looked around for blind spots, wondering where they could have been attacked from, and then screams from the rest of the assassins were heard from all sides. He quickly looked around, telling the unknown person to show himself, and then Zion came out of the darkness. Realizing that this was all his doing, he became very nervous and thought, had he been hiding his power all this time? He decided to get out of here right away in order to warn his master about this. But before he could take a step, MC finished him off and said that he was going to let one of them escape, but unfortunately, not him. He looked at the traces of blood on the floor, then at the black star, and thought that soon all this would end. At that moment, a loud sound of a mana explosion was heard, and he turned around, thinking, was there a magician in the palace? He realized that he completely forgot about whom. There was a guest in his palace. Meanwhile, Priscilla repelled the attack of the assassins that attacked her and asked who they were. She folded her fingers in a magical gesture and exclaimed, how dare they invade the imperial palace? After that, a huge magic circle appeared in front of her, and then the wind swirled nearby. The assassin frowned and said that he had not heard of a magician in the palace. After which, he pounced on her, and she exposed the magic circle to the blow. But her magic was so weak that it could not hold back the blow of the blade, and she, realizing that her strength was not enough, became very nervous. The magic barrier cracked, and the assassin pounced on her, shouting that now it was all over. She froze in horror and covered her face with her hands. But for some reason the assassin missed. It turned out that his blade changed direction on its own. After that, something pierced his heart through and through, and he wondered what was even going on in this palace. Zion arrived. He stood up to protect the lady, and another assassin, hiding around the corner, cautiously looked out from cover and thought that this was a complete failure. Who would have thought that something like this would happen in the abandoned palace of the Guiding Star? When he met the prince's gaze, his heart sank, and then a loud crack was heard. The enemy escaped by breaking the window. MC looked after him, and then used the black star tracking technique, which allows him to see the thread of the dark soul, which will lead him straight to their base. The dark thread stretched after the assassin all the way to the palace, and he decided to pay them a visit soon. Morning came. A guest arrived. and while he was getting dressed, he thought that it was good that the black star had reached level 1. But for the same reason, the strain on his entire body was increasing. He needed a way to strengthen it. He dressed according to his status, and then went out into the room where his older sister, Evelyn Agnes, was waiting for him. In the novel, she was the central character, coming right after the hero in importance. As one of the princesses of the Agnes Empire, she was the most important candidate for the throne. In the imperial family, she was the only one who supported the hero's cause, although it would be more accurate to say that she tried to do so. Evelyn asked him if everything was all right, and he asked what she meant. She said that she heard that there was an attack last night, and he told her that as far as she could see, he was okay. His reaction made her clutch her head and thought, what a poor child. This time must have taken a lot of toll on him. She can't believe how much he's changed. She said that she was glad to hear that he was okay, and promised him that she would find and punish those who infiltrated the palace. She also hired new guards, so he can rest easy. He told her that there was no need, which surprised her a little, and he said that he already had enough guards. But what brought her here? She told him that she simply came because she was worried about the rumors about the incident. Even if they have different mothers, he's still her little brother. He'll be an adult soon, so he does understand that the succession ceremony is approaching. She took a sip of tea and placed the cup on the table, advising him to give up his claim to the throne, and he asked with displeasure why he should do that. She frowned and asked seriously, did he really not understand? He confirmed it and asked again why he should do that. She said that she couldn't believe that he was so careless. He wouldn't pass the succession ceremony simply because he had neither the physical strength nor the skills. He would surely fail even the first test and would remain lying on the ground without strength. Even if he passed the test and got into the White Star Palace, the succession ceremony would seem easy to him compared to what was happening there. Maybe a week, although no, he wouldn't last there even a day. So let him give up the ceremony. As she spoke, several stars appeared behind her, showing her power. It was the Celestia Star C, a power that was passed down only to the direct descendants of the Agnes imperial family. It represents the ability to control anything in this world. But Zion didn't care about her threat and said that he had one question for her. He showed her the black star and asked why she thought he had no power. Shortly after, Princess Evelyn returned to her palace with the knights. The knight who met her was very surprised that they were still with her, and she told him that he didn't take them. He asked in surprise, was she talking about Prince Zion? She confirmed it and said that he had changed. She couldn't believe that the person she knew before was sitting in front of her today. And when did he grow so much? Was he hiding his power? She remembered his power. It definitely wasn't the Star Sea Celestia. She ordered the commander of the knights to increase the security around the castle, but so that Zion wouldn't notice, and let them keep an eye on him. Time passed. MC received a gift from his older sister. Fredo said that it seemed that Princess Evelyn liked him very much since she sent something so valuable. It turns out that she sent him an elixir containing the strength and endurance of a 1,000-year-old ogre. With this, he can relax for a while, but he never thought that she would support him so much. He thought about the Celestia Star C in its nature and effect. This power is very similar to the Black Star Fall, but he is the only one who can use the Black Star Fall. How can such similar powers exist? He decided not to dwell on it, because nothing here makes sense, including the fact that he ended up in a novel. The princess's kindness may one day be useful to him. The knight said that Lady Barmel came to see him, and he allowed her to enter. As soon as she was inside, she asked displeasedly, why did he call her if before that he treated her as if she did not exist? He said that she had been in this castle for some time, so she should pay for her stay. She frowned and asked what he meant. He handed her a piece of paper with a magic circle drawn on it and asked how long it would take her to do it. She took it and looked at it carefully. Then her eyes widened in surprise and she asked where he got it. He told her that he drew it himself, and she said that the format, the composition, the principle of movement, she had never seen anything like it before. He noticed that she didn't tell him when he would be done with it, and she said that it would be ready no later than tomorrow. She looked at him differently now. She didn't think that Zion knew anything about this. It looked like detection magic, but she had a feeling that it was aimed at extracting something. She inquired about his purpose, and he answered her, without hiding anything, that he wanted to start the hunt. After everything was ready, MC gathered all the servants near the magic circle. One of the maids asked the butler what he thought the prince had gathered them for. He told her that he didn't know either. Since he had changed, he didn't understand what was on his mind. She agreed with him and said that the current prince was a bit scary. It was time to act. Zion ordered Priscilla to begin, and she cast a spell and used magic, and the magic circle lit up. She stood in the center of it and continued to activate the spell, and the maid said that she didn't like the glow. Not waiting for an answer from the butler, she called out to him, but something strange was happening to him. When she bit her finger and her blood got on the magic circle, something inside the butler came to life. Sharp spikes came out from under his skin, and his whole body began to change. A menacing roar was heard, something crawled out of the butler's skin. This magic circle was created to detect enemies, a magic that reveals the true identity of enemies within a certain range. Upon seeing the monster, Priscilla covered her face with her hands in shock and asked what it was. MC calmly told her that it was their enemy. The monster is the real enemy from the novel, a servant of the Demon King, who also played a role in the destruction of the world. Just like in the novel, it is here. The monster got on all fours and let out a piercing roar, and then walked towards the lady, and she fearfully asked why her. The knights immediately stood in front of her to protect her, and Zion was expecting all this. Priscilla's blood, called demonic, is like a heavenly elixir for monsters. According to the novel, Priscilla will be captured by demons who will become addicted to her blood and feed from her body, undead but not dead. She will then receive her nickname, the Princess of Misfortune. The knights drew their swords while MC stepped forward and thought that the monsters were incredibly powerful. Even the lowest level ones were more powerful than a normal human. The demon lands were full of such creatures. He stood in front of the monster that was rushing straight at him, which made Priscilla worried. The monster pointed its sharp spikes at him, and he reached out his hand to it in response. As soon as the creature approached, he pierced its chest with his hand and reached for its heart, destroying one, and was surprised that it had two. Despite losing one heart, the monster was still full of strength, and Zion had to retreat. After that, the former butler asked, "What kind of magic circle is this? And what kind of power does he have? Who is he anyway?" When Zion called himself his enemy, he thought for a second, and then rushed to attack. MC responded by taking advantage of the falling black star, and the dark energy flow reflected the monster's blow, which he could not believe. The prince extended his hand towards him, aiming at a specific spot, and then pierced the second heart and thought that it would be problematic if the black star did not have time to reach the first level. After his attack, the monster fell to the ground and began to evaporate. He broke its core, so now it should not be possible for it to contact the demonic lands and transmit information there. The knights assigned to him by Evelyn came running to the noise. One of them bowed to his highness and introduced himself to him. "He is Alex from the Knightly Order of the White Lion. Can he find out what happened?" Zion coughed into his fist and answered him that nothing happened. Of course, the knight did not believe him, and he simply said that he got rid of the enemies. He decided not to reveal the existence of demons for some time. He must destroy them all before they notice him and hide. Later in the evening, a report came to the palace of another prince that something had happened in the palace of the Guiding Star. The prince inquired what was the matter and asked if he wanted to talk about the attack they had planned. He had heard it had failed, although he did not understand the reason. His subordinate said that was not what he wanted to report. Demonic energy had been detected in the Guiding Star Palace. The prince asked what exactly he meant, but he did not know more. Their sources from that palace had stopped communicating, and no matter how hard they tried to question the maids working there, they would not say a word. The prince ordered him to plant more spies there and look into this, and his subordinate said that there was something else. There was a rumor going around that Prince Zion had changed recently. The prince asked him to tell him more about it, and he said that for one thing, he had become very tough, and they said he was using an unknown power. The prince smirked and asked, "Has he finally gone crazy?" Well, his life is constantly under threat, so it's no wonder. They don't have to worry about rumors like that. He was a loser since birth. The only thing he inherited from Agnes was his hair color. No matter how hard he tried, he would only be a pathetic bug in his path. He asked, "Isn't it his turn to go through the succession ceremony?" His subordinate informed him that he didn't express a desire to refuse, so everything will go as planned. The prince noted that he still doesn't know his place, after which he thoughtfully tapped his finger on the armrest and started talking about the ceremony. Why don't they spice it up? Time passed. There was still a whole week left until the ceremony. Late at night, MC went out into the city. He walked along a dark street and thought that this place was somewhere around here. It turned out to be very easy to get out of the castle. Everyone is suspicious of him, but he won't be able to escape them anytime soon. He walked up to the door and thought, is this the place? Moonlit Evening is a very popular restaurant in the capital, so much so that a commoner can't get upstairs where the private rooms are without an appointment. But the real purpose of this place is the Moonlight Eye Information Guild. To be more precise, it's just one of the secret branches of the guild. He walked inside and sat down at a table, and soon a restaurant worker came up to him and asked if he could take his order. He poured him some water, and he said that he wanted some sun liqueur and fried snowflowers for an appetizer. The man understood what he meant, and then led him to the basement of the restaurant, and they started walking down a long flight of stairs until they reached a room where the branch manager named Aileen was sitting. She remarked that it was the first time she saw him there, and he told her that he had some business with her. Aileen agreed, but before starting, she asked him to confirm his identity, and he asked, "Since when does the Information Guild ask about the identity of the customer?" She told him that they usually don't do that, but this is a special case. He didn't know that this place only recently became a Moon Eye branch. She tapped her finger on the table and said that they haven't even officially opened yet. That is, people from the outside don't know about it, like most of the core members of the organization. She remembers the face of everyone she knows, but not his. Immediately after that, there was a noise. The guild people surrounded Zion from all sides, but as soon as they approached him, they could no longer move. He activated his power and asked if he was too early. Dark streams of energy swirled near his hand, and then he swung it, throwing the attackers back several meters. They hit their backs on the metal fence with such force that they were bleeding. And the manager looked at Zion in shock and thought, how is this possible? Those guys are experienced thugs assigned to guard her. Some of them are the eyes of the moon, but they were defeated so easily. Zion's hair came out from under his hood a little, and he hurried to pull it back up, then said that it doesn't matter how he found out about them. The only thing that matters is that he has an order and they will fulfill it. Feeling the murderous aura emanating from him, Aileen became nervous and asked what he wanted. After that, he told her everything. He needed a fake document and information about the Black Forest. After he left, her subordinate came to Aileen and asked why she accepted his order. She asked, he remembers that fight, right? He confirmed this, and she said that at that moment, his cloak was slightly raised and gray hair was visible. In the whole world, there is only one family with such hair color, the imperial family of Agnes. He asked in surprise, does that mean he is one of them? The branch manager noticed that one of the lions of Agnes was leaving on a journey, and he said that in that case, he would call their best agents for it. She ordered him to find out everything. His position in the imperial family, why he left the palace, why he came alone. But, more importantly, let him find out everything about the Black Forest. He left to carry out her order and she looked after him, thinking, who is he? His aura and power, capable of destroying everything in an instant. It seems that he can claim the place of the next emperor. The next day came. Lady Priscilla was walking around the palace as discontentedly as always, and no matter how much she thought, she still could not understand. Was this just the tricks of a black magician? Apparently, that magic circle was tracking black magic. The imperial family most likely doesn't know much about what happened either. But can't you at least tell her about it? She was the one who drew that magic circle and used her own blood. Stomping loudly in rage, she headed to the prince's room, but Frito blocked her way, and she indignantly exclaimed, what does this mean? He told her that at the moment, His Highness does not wish to see anyone, and added that it was all because of the shock after the recent incident. She was indignant and wanted to call all his words nonsense, but she remembered in time that she was actually a decent lady and told him not to dare lie to her. First of all, His Highness himself did an excellent job of this. The knight asked her to refrain from such statements. His Highness ordered her to keep this a secret. She said that she was not even from the Guiding Star Palace and was not His Highness's subordinate. So why should she follow his decree? She remembered his cold gaze and immediately fell silent and lowered her drooping gaze. After which, the knight said that His Highness left a message for her. She immediately became agitated and looked up at him. After which he said that the prince wanted her to return home immediately. There was nothing more for her to do here. Meanwhile, MC was riding on a train that was powered by mana. There were no such things in his homeworld yet. Progress must have advanced much further here. After all, centuries have passed. He should borrow this technology in his time. He looked away, glancing at the suspicious man who was riding in the other seat, and thought that he was right. As he expected, several people would follow him from the moment he left the guild branch. That's why he showed his hair. If he kept it at hand, he would be able to receive information much faster. This place would become the eyes and ears of the hero who would appear in the near future. This guild will provide any support to the hero with the purest thoughts of saving the world without any benefit. And so he wanted to see these people with his own eyes. An announcement sounded on the train that they would soon arrive at Ruin Station, and Zion stood up from his seat, thinking that he needed people to become his arms and legs. After that, he got off the train and headed to the city with the thought that the knights and servants of the Guiding Star Palace did not have enough strength and experience, and he did not have time to train them. There was only one way out: to use the information from the novel and introduce new characters. Very soon he found himself in the outer city of Ruin. Here he would find his first subordinate, or to be more precise, not far from the city. He came to a square where there was a fire fountain, and he thought that he had arrived here on time. A purification festival that takes place once a month in Ruin is an event where they cleanse themselves of sins and pray for the future well-being and protection of the city. According to the novel, Ruin will be destroyed during the purification festival, and the Black Forest will be the starting point of the city's fall. It is said that this place is known only to Lord Ruin and his family, although the Lord's permission is required to enter the Black Forest. Noticing a presence behind him, he ordered his pursuer to get out, but the man didn't react. After that, he used his power and said that he wouldn't repeat it. Dark streams of energy hit a girl named Nari, who was following him, and because of this, she screamed loudly and fell to the ground. After that, she looked up at Zion in surprise and asked how he knew that she was following him. He didn't let her finish and said that he wanted to add one more task. He needed information about recruiting mercenaries in the ruler's castle and the location of people with a six-legged beast tattoo in this city. The girl looked at him in confusion, and MC headed back to the streets of the city, saying that she worked for one of the best intelligence guilds in the empire, so he didn't think it would take long. She looked after him in confusion, thinking that they weren't that cool yet, and then asked how he even found out about all this. Meanwhile, a girl named Rain came to her father and asked him for something. He asked if she really needed to do this. She confidently confirmed it and added that this was a good opportunity to eradicate the cleaners, but her father was still unsure. His hands trembled, and he said that even their ancestors, who had the power of dragons, resorted to sealing, unable to find the strength to destroy. How does she plan to handle it? She answered him confidently, almost on the verge of anger, that she did not want to continue sacrificing the inhabitants of their lands to these idiots, even if they did something unforgivable. After that, she left, slamming the door loudly, and as she walked down the corridor, she cursed and thought, "Is this the family of the great hero who eradicated evil?" She hissed another curse through her teeth and said that the cleaners still control them. She came to a small arena, and a guy named Hart Sidmail asked why she was so gloomy. His friend Ragno said that he knew the reason. The old man must have scolded her again. Ryan cleverly adjusted his glasses and told him to watch his language. He was the master of this land. Ragno grumbled that he was so boring because he was always serious. He responded that he simply could not ignore the insult to his master. The girl intervened and told both of them to stop, after which she decided to change the subject and asked how the recruitment was going. Did they find anyone useful? Ragno asked in return. What did she think? Even all together, they were no good. Maybe they should just do it themselves? Ryan agreed with him and Reen chuckled, calling them useless idiots, then turned to Hart and asked what about him. He told her that he wasn't sure about their usefulness, but he had a few curious guys in mind. Noticing someone, he leaned forward with interest and said that here is one of them. MC came into the arena, only his hair was now dyed black. The candidates gathered in a group in front of the dais, where all four were sitting on richly decorated chairs. One of the candidates asked, "Isn't that Hart's light sword?" Ragno from the Red Wall was there too. Have all 7 chosen ones of the North gathered together? But for what? They started discussing the rumors that something was going to happen during this purification festival, while MC took a closer look at Rain. This woman was one of the hero's future allies. She was gifted by the heavens, someone who only appeared once every 1,000 years, the strongest spearman in history, the queen of dragon slayers, the divine spear. These were the titles she would receive in the future. In the novel, she was positioned as one of the strongest characters, but that would happen in the future, not now. MC was called to the arena under the name Zion Harness, and he stepped forward, as did his opponent. They stood opposite each other, and the man asked, "So this was his opponent?" Zion immediately recognized him. It was the murderer Uro, a vile criminal who was still wanted. Even the soldiers were afraid to arrest him. He glanced at the nobles behind him and thought that they would only judge by skill anyway. His opponent meanwhile pointed weapon at him and said with a smirk that it seems like someone is going to die today. MC ignored him, and he, already starting to boil with rage, ordered him to surrender before it's too late, if he, of course, does not want to lose his limbs. After that, he lunged forward, took weapon behind his back, and then jumped on him and raised weapon above his head. Zion did not move at all. He looked closely at his opponent and saw power points on his body. Every creature in this world has them. Dozens of power points in each movement. The violation of at least one of them leads to a distortion of the movement. He does not even have to use the fall of the black star. He aimed at the point located between his neck and shoulder and took a step to the side, saying that unfortunately, his attacks will not work on him. He stretched his leg forward, causing Uro to almost trip and become confused, not understanding how he pulled off such a trick. And then MC clenched his fist and punched him in the face with all his might, causing him to fly several meters and eventually fall to the floor with a crash. The others were shocked now, wondering how he even did such a thing, and why the famous Uro just flew away from his punch. Zion meanwhile looked around and thought that the time had come. Hart asked the girl what she thought of him. This is all he showed so far. He wins with minimal moves. Usually those whose skills exceed the enemy's level do this, but he believes that such strikes are more effective due to his weak body. She thoughtfully raised her hand to her face and agreed with him, and Ragno asked what was so interesting about this slow idiot. He seems to move well, but any of them can do this, or is he wrong? Besides, with a body like that, he's an easy target. Ryan agreed with him and added that this Zion guy was like walking on a knife edge. He could see that he trained hard, but he thought he was just born weak. Ryan said that his combat sense seemed excellent, but with that kind of ability, he'd be better off becoming a mage. Maybe he just didn't have the talent for martial arts. After that, she bowed her head in disappointment and sighed, saying that they still hadn't found any people. She looked up and thought that they couldn't put it off any longer. And at that moment, she noticed a man with a rather distinctive tattoo on his leg. She recognized the mark immediately and asked in anger, what was a moron from the Cleaner cult doing here? The Cleaner cult is a small society that worships the evil sealed in the Black Forest. This is what Rain is trying to suppress. It is a belief that is spreading like a disease throughout the northern part of the Empire, including the ruins. The cult consists of incorrigible scum, whose crimes range from kidnapping to murder and human sacrifice. Rain, holding a spear in her hands, thought, didn't they really filter everyone out twice like that? Hart called her. Rain? At that moment, a man from the Cleaner cult stepped forward and said, let the 6-headed beast arrive. He threw off his robe and said, it is their duty to calculate the route before its arrival, and his heart began to increase in size. The people present shouted in confusion, what the hell? To hell! We must stop him. He said, "Cleanse these unbelieving ignoramuses." His body began to transform. He added, "Their awareness will definitely come, but before that, they will need to die." His eyes lit up with rage, but the next second, Rein plunged her spear into his body. Ragno and the others ran up to her. She stopped, turned around and said, "I think she stopped him." Then she noticed another person whose body began to mutate. She thought it was a distraction. She shouted, "They have to stop them." The next second, a powerful explosion thundered in the square. Rein, covering herself with her hands, thought, "What is it?" A stream of smoke burst upward, and a cloud of energy dissipated. Those present looked on in surprise. Ragno laughed loudly, and turning to Rein, asked how she did it. When did she manage to learn such a thing? Ryan, turning to Reina, asked, "Milady, are you okay?" Hart said that it was amazing. She answered, "But it wasn't her, guys. Didn't they really notice?" In the shadow of the entrance stood the protagonist. He was concentrating energy in his hand. She, perplexed, said that the protagonist remembered the novel well, so it was not difficult to predict what would happen and change this event. He thought that he managed to repel the attack of the cultists, but simply defeating all the mercenaries is not enough to attract the attention of Reincarnated. Fortunately, a surprise attack did not take long to come and gave him the opportunity to act. In the end, after some time, Rein put her hand on the table and said that they should introduce each other. She thought, "Kayla and the rest are the chosen ones from the north, except for this woman. And the person next to her, then a candidate?" The elf thought, "It seems that only she and this woman were selected during the recruitment of mercenaries." Then Rein said, "Now she will briefly explain the essence of the operation, so they should listen carefully. Between the city of Ruin and the Salios Mountains, there is an unusual forest. A forest where everything, including grass, trees, are painted black. They call it the Black Forest. Those who went there never returned, so the passage is controlled by the city authorities and closed to ordinary travelers." The elf said that she had heard about the Black Forest before. She wanted to know not their goal, but a more specific way to achieve it. She answered, "To subdue evil." The elf was surprised. "Evil?" Rein said. "They must have heard the legends about the founder of her family. It is a tale of a hero who sprinkled himself with the blood of dragons and thus received their power, destroyed evil, and built the city of Ruin on the site of his feet. This story is quite famous in the north. In fact, evil did not fall then. It was so strong that their ancestor could only seal it. However, the Ruin are still paying for it." Then MC said, "The Festival of Purification." She frowned and then noted that it was true. More precisely, the payment is the purification ritual, which is held at the end of the festival. Hart said thoughtfully, "A purification ritual." She was talking about the ritual where the convicts from her town were sent to the Black Forest. She sighed and confirmed it, saying that they were being sacrificed to the Black Forest to maintain the seal. Ragno pointed to himself and asked, "Why would they need to submit to it then? The convicts were sentenced to death anyway. That was their payment for their time." Hart added, he wondered why such barbaric rituals were still being performed to this day. Rein put her hand forward and said, 5 times a month. That's how many times the victims were sent to the Black Forest. But what do they think would happen if there weren't enough convicts? In that case, those who had committed lesser crimes, or even innocent people, would be sacrificed, because a certain number of people had to go in no matter the circumstances. She remembered what happened when she was little and then added, "This can't go on anymore." She clenched her fist and said, "Stop sacrificing the lives of her people to some unknown bastard." Ragno laughed, clapped his hands and said, "She's right." He completely agreed. She convinced him. Then she said, "They know very little about the nature of this evil, so she herself is not sure of anything, but she can say one thing for sure. The power of this has weakened significantly due to being contained by the seal for a long time. Only a few people can enter the Black Forest due to a special magical barrier, and the people gathered here are, without a shadow of a doubt, the strongest of those she could gather." Kayla thoughtfully said, she would agree with that, but she can't understand why she invited this guy here too. With these words, she pointed her finger at the protagonist. Ragno smirked and said that he would like to know that too. The 7 chosen of the north. These people are also called the Heavens of the Next Generation. The faction would be considered the strongest if any of them were to be listed there. These are the ones whose skills are rumored to have already exceeded human limits, and 5 of the 7 chosen ones are here. Rein then sighed and said that it was just a premonition, but she felt that they would need him. Ragno, crossing his arms, asked what she said. Was she drunk? The protagonist sighed and thought it seemed like she was suspicious of him. He was sure that she had seen his strength, but the fact that she hadn't told the others proved that she didn't trust those gathered in this room. That man from the cleaner cult wouldn't have been able to get into the castle without help from the inside. He knew who the traitor was, but he couldn't figure out how to tell them in this environment without raising suspicion. All of this was necessary for Rein's growth. She then closed her eyes and said, "In any case, we'll have to discuss this another time. Now they will talk about their route, so they should listen carefully around the forest," she told her plan. And after a while, MC was sitting on the floor in a meditative pose. Looking at the energy in his hand, he thought, there are still problems with control. Of course, compared to the first time, when he just woke up in this body, it has become better, but he is not sure that he can defeat one of the 7 chosen ones at this stage of development. His future opponent will be much stronger than the chosen ones, and time, alas, is not on his side. He needs to reach the second stage as soon as possible. At this moment, Liu Xina approached him and said that he possesses extremely impressive strength. He turned around in surprise, looking at her. She came closer, holding the hem of her dress. Smiling, she asked how he does it. He noticed, and she is smart. She was surprised. Does he know her? Well, it does not matter. She walked further and stopped near the protagonist and told him not to go into the forest or he would lose his life. After that, she disappeared, and the protagonist said it was getting interesting. He thought, did he already change the story? But now is not the time to worry about it. After that, he stood up and told her to go out. Nari jumped from the tree and asked, seriously, how did he do this? The protagonist asked, did she bring it? She held out a bag and replied, a high-quality spell storage stone, just like he ordered. She had to get it in such a short time, it was difficult. Because of this, she will charge extra. But what is he going to use it for? He replied, to give up. Nari was surprised. What, give up? What is he? Then MC turned around abruptly, and she shook her head negatively, put her hand to her head and asked, and how should she report this? After some time, the group walked through the forest. The protagonist thought, everything here is really black. The road dust, the trees, the grass, and even the rocks lying around. Everything is in darkness, as if the forest had swallowed up all the light. Hart asked how people still haven't found out about this place. Something so serious should be handled by the Empire, not the city government. Ragno asked, does he want to go back already? Ryan added, he can leave, the little idiot. The protagonist thought, even if Ryan didn't give a full explanation, no one is complaining. He can see how much they believe in her. Except for Kayla, since she joined later. And then she said, it's time to get to work. The evil energy intensified. She knows what's going on inside, but they can't waste any more time. Ryan asked, are they going to go straight into the depths as planned? She confirmed it and added that before that, she released her powerful energy in front of her and said, according to etiquette, they should at least knock. Such a powerful blow left a mark on the ground. She sighed and shouted, now this can be considered a greeting. Ragno said, keep it up. Then Rain ran forward and he smiled and said, she is taking all the initiative. What are they doing there? They also need to go. Then they ran after her. The next second, several wolves appeared in front of them, and Rain thought, sinister monsters that only occur in the Black Forest? Damn, at this rate she will not be able to dodge. The next second, Ragno said, he told her not to rush forward so thoughtlessly. He released his energy and began to attack the monsters. He said that this is his job. Hart, armed with a knife, also went to attack. A few moments later, Ragno looked around and noticed that there was no end to them. The next second, Kayla crossed her arms and said, everyone back off unless they want to burn. She then spread her arms out to the sides, releasing a powerful energy that spread around. Phil picked up his weapon and said, Kayla, she should stand behind him. MC watching this thought, they were moving so well together. It seemed like they had trained a lot. He heard that they had been friends since they were kids. Apparently that was true. In any case, now was the time. Then he looked ahead. A bat was flying straight at him. The protagonist put his hand forward and then clenched his fist, after which the monster seemed to dissolve. As he thought, breaking the connection with evil was enough to deal with them. Kayla then came up to him and asked, how did he do it? She asked him a question. The next second, a huge monster appeared in front of them. Rain commanded, get back in line. What the? MC, looking at the monster, thought, has it started already? The rest of the team screamed, damn, the forest is changing. Ragno screamed, they mustn't panic, they must stick together. The monster swung its huge paw and slashed in front of itself. The team members jumped in different directions. The tree roots split them into two. Rain, who was covered by the roots, screamed. Hart. After a while, the protagonist noticed that he couldn't feel their presence. Apparently, they were far enough away. Everything was going according to plan. It was annoying, but there were some things to sort out before stepping into the sealed lands. Hart, who was standing next to him, said, oh, this is bad. The protagonist asked why. He put his hands on it. The protagonist asked because he couldn't kill Rain Dranier now? Hart turned around and asked what he meant by that. MC replied that he thought he understood. Meanwhile, Rain climbed onto the defeated monster. Ragno screamed, damn, Hart! He remembered the moment with the roots and shouted, why was this brat in there with him? Then Rain jumped off the monster, and he asked what she was going to do. Are they going to go look for them? She answered negatively, looking in the opposite direction. She said that they will continue moving deeper. She thought, since he is with Hart, maybe they will not die. It seems that this guy's power is opposite to the power of evil. Ragno said, he understands. Ryan thought, to be honest, she was suspicious of everyone around her after the last attack of the cult of cleaners. But this is definitely not the work of her guys. She has known Ryan since he was 3 years old, and he is like family to her. Hart, Ragno, and Kayla are her dear friends who have been with her since early childhood. It cannot be otherwise. One of the rising stars of the northern region of the Empire, the second son of the noble Sidmel family, ruling in the northern region, like the Dranier family, and one of the 7 chosen ones. All of this applies to Hart. But that's not all of his roles. One of the leaders of the cleaner cult that serves the evil of the Black Forest. Hart said in surprise, like him? No. Who else knows? The protagonist answered, so far only him. He asked, is that so? So he's so overconfident, or just stupid? He didn't think he could just kill him? Or does he think he can escape from him? Did he know that the one they served wasn't always evil? Originally, stupid people just used a power they didn't understand, called it evil, and threw it into the forest. He reached for his weapon and added, and all this time they were waiting for the day when she would break free of the seal and cleanse this world. Their duty as cleaners is to trample and destroy all the bugs that get in her way. Then he took out his weapon and ran forward sharply, delivering a slashing attack. He thought, there is no way the opponent will even notice the rapid swings of his blades. At the moment when the silver flash appears, the opponent's head has already flown off. The battle is over. His sword technique is flawless. Then how? The next second, he was behind the protagonist, and his hand was lying to the side. He said, what just happened? Then he turned around, and the protagonist said that he miscalculated twice. First, when he thought that he was weaker than him, and second, when he did not finish him off with one attack at the very beginning. With these words, the protagonist concentrated energy in his hand and around himself. Hart said in fear, damn. His eyes lit up with rage, and he used an attack called Moonlight. He thought, they say that a unique technique that can cut the moon in half is only owned by family members. This will help him hurt. Then the protagonist put his hand forward and noticed, oh, and another mistake. He sent his powerful energy forward, dissolving the enemy's attack. The next second he was in front of him and said, he should have just run away. Hart said, he really tricked him. But still, they guys can't stop them. After all, there are still. Before he could finish speaking, MC asked, their second person, right? He knows without him. Hart asked in surprise. How? The protagonist, looking around, thought he needs to act quickly. After some time, he walked further into the forest and thought that the Rain team should have already approached the center. Is it somewhere around here? Then he stopped near the tombstone and thought, here it is. The tombstone of the soul of an evil deity, the very seal that restrains him. I wonder why this thing was thrown in such a place and not placed in the center of the forest. There is no point in postponing it any longer. With these thoughts, he walked forward. Huge hands appeared behind him. He thought, the remains of the spirit sealed in the tombstone? And then the hands began to powerfully hit the ground. The protagonist ran forward and thought, it's time for the main body to show itself. He concentrated the energy in his hand and saw the monster and thought, that's right. He directed his powerful attack, destroying the enemy. He thought, according to the novel, the hero's team will use this to seal evil again in the future. If he uses the high-level sealing magic hidden in this tombstone. Then he took out the stone and felt an ominous aura behind him. He thought, it has begun. Ragno, breathing heavily, thought how far they still have to go. He said, Hart is alive, right? Kayla, who was standing near the roots, said, stop talking. It would be better for him to help clear the path ahead. Rain said, just go a little further. She thought, their target is straight ahead. Then an elf stood in front of them and said to wait. They can't go forward. If they continue, they will die. The next second, the roots rushed upward. Liushina was sitting on a stone nearby and noticed that they were too late. Rain said, evil. She was surprised. Who were they calling evil? Her? She stepped on the ground and added as she walked forward. What did she do to deserve such a name? She simply did what she wanted. Rain ordered everyone to line up. Ragno asked, is this the same sealed entity? Rain confirmed it. Even if it looks so confident, but it cannot use much of its power now. Everyone line up in. Before she could finish speaking, Ragno fell to the ground dead. Turning around, she called out to him in fear, and then, looking back, called out to Ryan. Kayla screamed in fear. Ryan, what is he? He said, the mother of all monsters. He tore off his shirt and added, her child has come to see her. Rain thought, the cult of the cleaners. Ryan said, he dealt with the people who wished to harm her, and he brought the main culprit of her enslavement. With this, he sacrifices to her a relative of the one who sealed her in the past, a descendant of Draenir. Ryan was kneeling. Ryan lowered his head and said that he hoped that she would find this offering worthy. In response, Liushina remained silent, and he, kneeling in front of her, asked, did she not like it? She asked why he would arbitrarily deal with her victim, and then she immediately attacked him and said, he was never her child, right? At that moment, the elf ran to the protagonist and grabbing him by the shoulders began to scream. They need to run away. That man in glasses betrayed them and killed everyone. MC thought she ran away? The elf added, and that woman, a human cannot cope with such a creature. There is no time to waste. They need to run away quickly. Then the protagonist sighed and answered negatively. He said that it was even better this way. He thought that he hoped that she would be stronger than he thought. It all started when she was born and began to feel this world. The desire to kill grew inside that woman. At first, she did not understand that she was different from other people. Until a fortune teller told her that her destiny was to die. Destiny, a path determined from the moment of birth. The woman accepted this path. She did not know how to doubt anyway. There was simply no need for it. Would she turn away from something that only brought pleasure? Even if it was fate that made her an enemy of the whole world and led to imprisonment, she did not regret anything, because the more people gathered together, the more lives she could take. Walking forward, she asked, so she is a descendant of Draenir? She does not think so. She is too weak for this. How boring. Does she know? After she deals with her once, she is going to get rid of the ruins. She is held back for so long, so she is wildly hungry. Will one city be enough? Then she saw flashes of energy in front of her. A powerful sphere rose up. Rain, gritting her teeth in anger, shouted, "She is a bastard." Then she began to attack her opponent and shouted, "How many sacrifices must be made for her to be enough?" Lucina said she finally pulled herself together. She put her hand to the gaping hole in her chest and said that she adores prey that resists like her. The more she resists her, the more suffering on her face. So let her despair become even deeper. The next second, monsters began to crawl out of the hole in her body, and Rein thought if she hits it, she will die. She began to dodge the attacks of the monsters and concentrated energy into her spear. Another wolf head rushed straight at her and bit through her weapon. She thought, her spear is made of black iron. Several wolf heads were heading straight for her. She looked away. Then the head flew off the monster's body. Rein jumped up, concentrating energy in her hand. She thought that she should finish it all with one blow while this monster was sealed. Lucina looked at her in surprise, and Rein thought before her strength left her, she had a chance, her only chance. Then she sent a powerful energy to the ground, and then from exhaustion, she fell down. She was on her knees and released the contents of her stomach. She clutched her stomach and thought, this is a side effect of forcibly using Genesis. But everything is going well. Lucina said because of the seal, she will not be able to use all her power. This is her last chance to finish it. And so, now that she has let her guard down, she must gather all her power. And that's what she thought, right? But did she know that the seal was broken a long time ago? She simply did nothing, out of sheer whim. Then, more monsters appeared from her back. Rein looked at it in horror, and she added, this means that they had no chance of winning from the start. Reina, despite herself, knew that she had no chance. There was no way a human could defeat such a creature. Then, several snakeheads rushed towards her, and she thought, how the hell did they seal such a monster? She closed her eyes and thought, Father, is this darkness? At that moment, the protagonist arrived on the field and, noticing Rein lying unconscious, thought, the shock she had experienced should be enough to wake her up. Lucina then asked, didn't she tell him? He would die if he came here. He said, Lucina Bloodwalker. She was surprised. Wow, he knows her name? Then he should know how she got it too. He thought, the creature that killed most of the world's population. Queen of Evil, one-man army, mother of monsters. She had many nicknames, but one best summed up her essence. He said, Witch of the Sky Slaughter. She said that she didn't think he was that stupid. Didn't she warn him? He asked. Why should he listen to her? She asked in response, because otherwise she would kill him? He chuckled. Seriously? Who said that he was going to die by her hand? She was surprised. What? He said that from today on, she would serve him. From the very beginning, Lucina was one of those he decided to lure to his side. He thought, since she was the Witch of the Sky Slaughter, it was worth the effort. He also thought about Rein, but she was destined to become a comrade of the hero. Then Lucina repeated, to serve him? Well, then he should try to force her. She released her creatures from behind her back. MC took out a stone and threw it forward. She covered her hand, sighing in surprise. Then the protagonist looked at her seriously. The most difficult spell that the hero Draenir used to seal the Witch of the Heavenly Slaughter in the past. A supernatural technique that only takes the souls of the caster and the target, then locks it in another world. A large circle of soul destruction. He transferred the magic contained in the tombstone to the spell storage stone he received from the informant from the Moon's Eye and activated it. Due to the complexity, he was only able to transfer the main part, but it would be enough. Then Lucina said, I see. And he acted like this because he believed in it? Did he know that from the moment they entered this forest, she was aware of their every move? This black forest is her, but why does he think she allowed him to do this? Simply because it will not change anything. A large circle of soul destruction is not a sealing magic. It destroys the target's soul using the soul of the caster as collateral. This means that the spell is useless if his soul is weaker than the target. That's why even that bastard Draenir barely managed to seal her. Over the centuries, her soul has become even stronger. With that, she smirked as she continued to release her creatures. She said, but would his soul be able to suppress hers? The protagonist replied that he wasn't sure, so they would test it now. He concentrated the energy in his hand and added, he was always curious about something. Was the soul sealed in Zion? Agnes really the Dark Emperor who ruled the entire world? Or was it the same sick principle that inherited the memory of that emperor? Had his soul truly ceased to exist? The Great Soul Destruction Circle creates a place where only the soul without a body exists. That's where he would be able to get the answer. Lucina asked, would he test it? With her? With the power that was barely enough to defeat one of those people they call the Chosen Ones? She didn't want to kill him right away because of this curious power, but if he was trying to upset her, he succeeded. As long as they were here, she was going to get rid of this spell once and for all. Should he tell her how many lives he had? She then used an ability called Sangria Requiem. The huge creature rushed straight towards the protagonist and opened its mouth. Lucina watched this with a smirk, and then she felt a pulse of energy. Confused, she asked, what? How? She thought in surprise. Her hand disappeared, but there was no reason for it. The protagonist said it seemed like her stomach would explode if she swallowed it. He thought, in the large soul destruction circle, he could definitely feel the power of the Black Star, a feeling that endlessly expanded and became clearer, creating hundreds of ways to destroy the enemy in front of him. The Black Star is the power of the Emperor who ruled the world in the past. She screamed indignantly. What did he do? He asked, and she didn't understand. She was indignant. How dare he? How dare he? MC pointed his hand at her and then clenched his fist. Everything around her was covered in cracks. She screamed. What? He asked. Hasn't she noticed yet? The next second, she was next to him and clenching her teeth, she said, "Him!" He thrust his hand forward, attacking her head. Then she jumped to the side and screamed, "He's an idiot." Then he pointed his hand at her, releasing his powerful energy again. She said, "What the hell?" She thought, no matter how far she ran, her body continued to break down. She hadn't felt anything like this since she reached the pinnacle of blood magic. At what point did she make a mistake? Where did she take a wrong turn? And when? Really? She saw the stone in his hand, and she thought she might actually die. No, she definitely won't die like that. She asked him to stop and make it stop. He asked, "What do you mean stop? She has many lives, doesn't she?" Sangria Requiem is one of the unique spells of the Heavenly Slaughter Witch. It takes away a portion of life, kills its opponent, and transfers it to the user of such magic. The witch said in surprise, "How is he?" The protagonist thought, "It is often said that an oath or contract engraved in the soul cannot be broken. Usually, it is difficult to manipulate the soul directly, but in this place, there is no physical shell. He will teach her a lesson in absolute obedience, together with all-consuming horror." Then he asked, should he get rid of only half? After a while, he lowered his gaze and thought, "Fortunately, it seems that not much time has passed. Rain is lying there. He won Lucina's obedience, but it is not flawless. The reason for this was the destruction of the large destruction circle, which happened because it could not withstand the power of the Black Star. However, it was not that bad. If everything went according to the original plot, Lucina would have awakened as the Witch of Doom and would have become a great hindrance to the hero's team. But now, after his intervention, this will not happen. She lowered her head at this moment and thought that she had lost. It was a crushing defeat. She felt the seal of submission engraved in her soul. Where did this guy come from? She said, but does he know? If she were in his place, she would not let down her guard. One day, she will remove this seal and tear off his head. He looked at her out of the corner of his eye and said, "Good luck." Turning in the opposite direction, he added, "From now on, she should call him Master." She answered, "Of course, Master," and she had one last question. He told her to ask it. She said, as he knows, she likes to kill. This is not just a hobby, this is her destiny and her reason to live. The more victims there are, and the stronger they are, the more pleasure she gets. Putting her hand to her chest and smiling, she asked if she followed him, how many people would she be able to kill? He smiled and answered, more than in her wildest dreams. After a while, Henry asked how long she would behave like this. Ryan sat on the chair, not answering a word. He thought, 3 days had passed since Ryan was found alone, unconscious in the Black Forest. There were only traces of a fierce battle around, but not a single member of the subjugation squad was found. It would be better not to ask her anything. Coming to the exit, he said, at least she should not reproach herself with hunger. Lowering her head, she said that it was her fault. It happened because she was too weak. She covered her face with her hands and said, everyone died. The people who had been with her for decades, the ones who were closer to her than her own family, it wasn't because of Ryan's betrayal or the lack of people in the party. It was because she was weak. She had to become stronger. No matter what, she had to. With that, she clenched her fist and pressed it to her chest. She thought that she could feel it, that witch was still alive. One day, she would tear her to pieces with her own hands. And that boy, it was definitely Zion. Most likely, he was also killed by the witch, but perhaps there was a small chance that he was saved. Maybe they would meet again someday. After that, she stood up from her chair. Meanwhile, Aileen pointed her finger at the documents and said, is this true? Her subordinate confirmed it, and she, looking through the documents, said, the Black Forest has disappeared. She thought, or rather not so. The evil energy that filled the forest disappeared, as if it had never happened. She asked, in that case, could the witch be considered dead as well? He replied that the informants had failed to enter the forest, so they couldn't confirm it. But given that the evil energy had disappeared, he assumed she was dead. She wondered if the Heavenly Slaughter Witch had disappeared. They couldn't easily accept the disappearance of someone as powerful as her. She said, maybe that Imperial offspring. She wondered how powerful a person would have to be to kill the Heavenly Slaughter Witch. She thought, a direct descendant. It would be possible if a direct descendant of the Imperial family took on the matter, because each of them could be called a true monster with immeasurable potential. To understand why he did this, she needed to find out who he was in the first place. She asked if they had any information on this guy. The subordinate replied that after investigating the castle, it was found that all but one of the Imperial family members were there. She asked who was missing. He replied, they call him the captive prince, Prince Zion. After a while, Frito asked, is he deaf? The captain of the 4th Division of the Imperial Magic Squad Icarus, Fernando Pringham, replied that he would leave only after he saw Prince Zion with his own eyes. Then he handed him a scroll and said, he needed this signature. Brito thought, Prince Zion, it's been almost a week. Where is he? Maybe something happened outside. Fernando asked, does he know that today is his last chance to participate in the succession ceremony? If Prince Zion doesn't sign this by the end of today, he will miss his chance. Brito thought, other members of the Imperial family can participate by giving confirmation and not showing up in person. But Fernando thought, he's sure of it. He's been coming here every day for 3 days now, demanding his signature, and he hears excuses like feeling unwell or training in the basement. Nothing but excuses. This meant that Xian was not in the palace of the guiding star, or rather, he thought that he was not in the imperial castle at all. Members of the royal family who had not yet undergone the succession ceremony were forbidden from leaving the palace grounds without permission. If he could prove the fact of his absence, he would do the third prince a favor. He then folded his arms across his chest and smiled, asking where the prince was now. Fredo replied that he was not feeling well, so he was resting in his bedroom. Fernando ran forward, pushing him away with his hand, and shouted that he must see him today at all costs. He started running up the stairs. Fredo ran after him and shouted, "Captain, he must stop." He thought, "This is the end, Prince Xian." Fredo thought, "Prince, so where the hell is he?" Fernando then shouted, "His Highness." He apologizes for being rude, but it is urgent. He then opened the doors, walking inside. MC sat at the table and, putting his hand on the book, said if he understands that this is rude, then it is not worth doing so. Fernando looked at him in horror, and he asked, "Does he not think so?" Then the captain bowed and apologized. He thought, what is going on? He's radically different from the Xian he heard about. This imperiousness is not inherent in the captive prince, right? He is more like it. Then he looked in surprise at the protagonist's outstretched hand. He said, "Paper, he needs a signature, right?" Fernando, holding his hands, ran forward and confirmed this. Then he handed over the documents and the protagonist added, "And also, he does not like it when someone touches what belongs to him." After that, he signed and handing the documents back, said, "He better be careful." Fredo asked in surprise where he disappeared to. He scared him to death. He is asked several times a day. MC thought it was close. He almost missed the succession ceremony. Liushina should have arrived in the capital by now. By the time she completed the orders he gave her and returned here, he should have finished the ceremony. And before that, he looked at Fredo and asked, "Is everything ready?" He asked, "Does he mean the 1,000-year-old ogre heart that Princess Evelyn gave him?" Of course, they did everything as he ordered. The protagonist looked at his hand and thought, he needs to completely absorb the power of the 1,000-year-old ogre heart. The time spent processing it will definitely pay off. By absorbing the power of the heart, he will reduce the shortcomings of this body, and he needs to reach the second level of the Black Star Mastery before the succession ceremony begins. Meanwhile, Dean, sitting on a stool, looked at the others and said, "He is very angry." Sam folded his arms and said, "They failed twice. No wonder he is furious." According to number 4, someone incredibly powerful is secretly guarding the Guiding Star Palace. Mark asked, "A person with such power is protecting a forgotten prince? Are they saying that there's a point in this?" Dean said, "Enough. It has already happened." Holding his weapon in front of him, he added, "It is more important now to concentrate on the orders he gave them for the near future. He thinks this is their last chance, so they all need to get ready." Mark added, "Is it time for the succession ceremony to take place in the Imperial Palace yet?" Dean, standing up, confirmed it. As always, he will give them the route. Then the question was heard, "Who is it anyway?" One swung his weapon in front of him. Liushina, who was standing in the corner, said, "There is no need to cut spur of the moment." She walked forward and added, "Even if they are weak." Dean asked who she was. She asked, he was going to die soon anyway, so why bother answering? The others charged with their weapons and shouted, "Ah, she is a cocky fool. They must show her." Liushina closed her eyes and said, "Master, if this is his order, she will gladly obey." Mark ran forward, but at that moment, a snake-like creature burst out from behind her and attacked him. The next warrior jumped over the monster. Liushina, noticing it, waved her hand, attacking the enemy. The others approached her, putting their weapons to her neck. Dean stood behind, swinging his knife. He shouted, "She must die, monster." Then he swung his weapon. Her head was separated from her body. Dean sighed in relief and then ordered the others to take care of the body. Liushina asked who he called a monster. He hasn't even seen real monsters yet. With that, she smirked. Her head returned to its place. She released her creatures from behind her. The men looked at this in surprise. After that, Liushina licked her lips and thanked them for the food. The succession ceremony is a qualification test that the direct descendants of the imperial family take to prove their strength. It is only held when the heir comes of age, but not only direct heirs can participate. Agnes relatives are scattered throughout the empire, and they also have certain rights. Although they cannot claim the throne, even if they pass the ceremony, they are still often willing to take the risk. There is a reason for this. The only way for a collateral family to enter the imperial palace is to successfully pass the succession ceremony. After a while, Lynette said, with a smile, and he swore that he would never set foot in the imperial palace again. She did not expect to meet him here, Vale Elones. He looked at her and said, he can say the same about her. She smiled and asked how she could miss such an opportunity. She didn't think the succession ceremony would be held so soon. He agreed. It was true. He was also surprised. She added that she heard that a captive prince would participate this time, the most talentless descendant in the history of the Agnes family, the height of incompetence and a disgrace to the imperial family. Vale said, if the rumors are true, he has no reason to participate in this succession ceremony. Lynette said, even so, but why shouldn't he try? She thought, with such mediocre skills, he would most likely die during the ceremony. He does not have the qualities that an emperor should have: the charisma to lead people, the ability to distinguish truth from lies, the ambition to conquer the whole world, and the most important thing for Agnes, overwhelming strength. This tradition dates back to the first emperor. The succession ceremony is to check if a candidate is fit to be emperor, so it is a strength-focused ceremony, and weakness in this case could cost the heir his life. She smiled and said, but of course it hasn't come to that yet. She then raised her index finger and said, I wonder what he's thinking, although it's even better for them this way. Vale folded his arms over his chest and looked at her and said, even if he lived as quietly as a mouse, it would hardly be enough to survive here, and he even thought of drawing attention to himself. Anyway, the ceremony will begin soon. Why isn't he here yet? She asked. Maybe he finally realized what he did. In horror, he covered himself with a blanket and sat in his room. This could be the first ceremony without the participation of direct descendants. Well, it's better for them. The observer then said, well, since Prince Zion hasn't shown up yet, they're only going to start the ceremony. Before he could finish speaking, one of his subordinates shouted, Prince Zion has arrived. The doors opened and the protagonist walked forward. Lynette asked in surprise, is he a captive prince? You can't tell by his appearance, right? She thought, is this really the prince she had heard so much about? The shame of the imperial family? Walking forward, the protagonist said, they will begin the ceremony. When MC approached the observer, he said, Prince Zion has arrived. It is time to announce the rules for the ceremony. It will be held here in the testing palace. The protagonist thought he was almost too late. In order to reach the second level, it was necessary to prepare the body for it, otherwise it would not withstand it. The heart of a 1,000-year-old ogre. After absorbing the energy of this, he was finally able to reach 2 stars. The book did not mention the succession ceremony. Better to be on guard. The original plot began with Zion's death, so the ceremony was never held. Confusion, contempt, surprise, mockery. Most likely, most of them think that he will not be able to pass the ceremony. Maybe not all, but it does not change the essence. Even taking into account all his recent actions, it would be foolish to hope that they will change their minds so soon. Then the observer said, only the first 3 who arrive on the top floor will pass the ceremony. The checks on each floor are controlled by observers, including him. Then he wished everyone good luck. After that, the observers went up the stairs, and the protagonist said that he knew it. Everything is as he thought. Meanwhile, the observer said, Prince Zion. He thought he saw him a few months ago. That weak gaze on the floor, a body that can break from one blow, and lousy combat and magic skills. Even then, it became crystal clear to him why he was considered a disgrace to the imperial family. But now he sees a completely different picture. His natural movements are majestic, like a ruler. A calm gaze, looking down on everything. Even his body looks fit, as if he had been working out. What had happened to him in the past few months? However, it doesn't change anything. This succession ceremony is just one big trap, a trap that he can never escape from. There is no way to avoid it. Many are eager to kill Zion, which means he won't live to see the end of the ceremony. He can only sympathize with everyone who is next to him. After a while, those present in the hall began to shout, damn, only 3 can pass? 1 for each gate. Lynette turned around and looked at the protagonist who came to the stairs. Vale approached her and asked, wasn't she going to go in? If not, he would go first. He ran to the door, and Lynette, holding the hem of her dress, ran after him and shouted that she was coming. Then MC turned around and turned to the stairs and thought, so each floor will test his ability as the heir to the throne? After some time, he arrived at the location and thought, the sound of water. No, it's not water, it's man-eating bugs. Hadn't they gone overboard with the difficulty of the first trial? He supposes that in that case there should be a way around it, but he still won't use it. The second level of the Black Star's Fall is not an easy achievement. The first level is one thing, with the second, it's like a world opens up. Then he said, an ocean of darkness. He thought, this is the power of the Black Star's Fall, which denies all existence. All that remains is for him to destroy everything. Are they still watching? He can imagine what their faces are like now. After that, he walked up the stairs, entering the next room. He thought, this place is a huge labyrinth. Is this the starting point? The next second, an attack flew in front of him, and he thought, he looked at the Death Knight standing in front of him and thought, for the sake of the ceremony, they even placed this undead in the Imperial Palace. A second later, the knight swung his weapon again. The protagonist dodged to the side and used dark vision. He noticed a glowing spot on the opponent's body, and then concentrated energy in his hand. Many attacks were directed at him, and several more knights appeared. The protagonist laughed, and then asked, was he really that predictable? He thought that he expected something like this, but he didn't think they would go this far. It was obvious that they were not planning on leaving the participants alive. More precisely, their goal is to kill him specifically. There's no way that the minimum ability test would be that difficult. Using the undead also means that they won't leave any witnesses behind. He said, how interesting. If that's the case, he thinks that he can disregard some of the rules too. The next second, the knights charged while swinging their swords, but MC released his ability forward. Meanwhile, Lynette ran through the labyrinth, breathing heavily. She thought, something's wrong. Tens of thousands of man-eating bugs attacked as soon as they entered. This is definitely not the level of the succession ceremony. If she hadn't used her disguise skill, there wouldn't even be a corpse left of her by now. And a death knight at that. The undead in the middle of the Imperial Palace is absurd, but then the knight tried to attack her, She covered her head with her hands and continued running forward, thinking, they're also incredibly strong. Were all the previous ceremonies like this? This is simply a massacre of all participants. The next second, she hid behind the wall and thought, barely escaped. After that, she turned her gaze to the side and noticed the protagonist standing surrounded by knights. She said, Death Knights? Is this Prince Zion? He is not inferior to his opponents at all. She would even say he is winning, and his movements are not only natural, but also beautiful. Even if a land animal watches the star every night, he still cannot touch it with a finger. Even she has a hard time keeping track of the prince's movements. She said, so he has been hiding his strength all this time. She thought, such a skill power cannot be achieved in a few days. He fooled everyone around him, including the imperial family, endured all the insults and accusations despite such strength, but why? Meanwhile, the protagonist, continuing the battle, thought, the undead will not die so easily. He needs to completely destroy it. He pushed off the ground and used an ability called Storm. A powerful storm rushed forward, and the protagonist thought that he should first dispel the magic that enhances their abilities. He waved his hand, knocking off the helmet of one of the knights, and then dodged the attack of the next one and concentrated the energy in his hand, then directed it at the next opponent. Another knight went to attack, and MC again concentrated the energy in his hand and directing it at the knight and fought the last one. At that moment, the knight turned his back. Lynette anxiously shouted at him to be careful. After that, the protagonist closed his eyes and, looking at the gate, thought, the other participants were unlucky. After all, this was all set up just to kill him. However, they themselves decided to participate in the succession ceremony, and it is also their responsibility to go through with it. He thinks that he should finish this first. Meanwhile, the observer indignantly shouted, what the hell? He thought, he has never encountered such a power. Could it be that the blood of Agnes had suddenly awakened in him? He grabbed his head and, clenching his teeth, said it was impossible. Damn if he was going to blame him for that. Then he asked how far the prince had gone. Turning around, he added, Cardo. He asked him where he was. Why wasn't he answering? Then he looked at Cardo's head in surprise. The protagonist was standing nearby. His entire hand was bloody, and he asked, did he mean him? Meanwhile, Enoch asked, wouldn't it be a quiet night? His subordinate answered that it was. Everyone had disappeared in just a day. Except for the guests, no trace of people was found anywhere. The strange thing was that there were traces of a struggle, but no blood. The prince was surprised. No blood? Maybe it was the bloody tower? Regan bowed and said that they were looking into the matter. The prince added that he did not expect to lose such a useful card. Reaching for the cup of drink, he said, things have not been going well for Zion lately. If he passes the succession ceremony and officially becomes the emperor candidate, his maternal family will change everything. He looked at his reflection in the drink and wondered, was he just lucky? Or was he hiding something? The next second, he threw the cup to the side, breaking it into many pieces. Stretching his hand forward, he told Regan to tell them to take care of the succession ceremony properly. Meanwhile, the observer screamed in surprise when he, turning to his subordinates, he shouted, why did he stop like an idiot? He must kill him. He thought nervously, he doesn't know how he got here, but there are advantages to this. It's better to let him die here. After that, the protagonist grabbed the attacker's face and said, attempted assassination of a representative of royal blood and machinations at the succession ceremony. He thinks that the death penalty will do as a punishment. The people present looked at him in horror, and then one of the observers swung his weapon, trying to hit the protagonist, but in response, he concentrated energy in his hand and directed it into the body of the attacker. After that, another observer directed his attack at the concentrated energy of the protagonist. He noticed the observers and ran towards him, while he screamed in fear. What the? He put up a wall of fire in front of him and thought that he did not expect him to attack like this, but as soon as he touched the fire shield, his entire body caught fire. The next second, the protagonist, easily penetrating the fire wall, asked what he was thinking about. The observer, watching what was happening in fear, thought, what is going on here? Does he have any more skills than those he demonstrated against the Death Knights? The observer screamed, begging for mercy. Prince Zion, he must show mercy. The observer knelt down and said how they could kill it. He looked at the protagonist and thought, they can't kill him. It was impossible from the start. MC looked down at him and said, they must be doing all this on someone's orders, but do they know? It's not him they should be afraid of. He concentrated energy in his hand, and the next second the observer lowered his head and desperately shouted, he will tell him everything he knows. He begs for mercy. The protagonist replied, no need. He was surprised. What? The protagonist swung his hand and said that he already knew. The observer's head separated from his body, and MC turned around and asked, well, how long is he going to pretend? One of the observers began to turn into a monster and asked, so did he notice? He said, he really didn't expect it to turn out like this. The pathetic Prince Agnes hid such power. The protagonist thought he noticed when he crushed his heart and a weak evil energy burst out. He is stronger than the last one he killed. The demon said, there is a demon in the royal palace, and he is not surprised. So he knew all along? He planned to leave quietly, but changed his mind. He wants to ask something. MC said that it is not up to him to decide. He decides here. He concentrated the energy in his hand. Meanwhile, Lynette continued running through the labyrinth and asked where the hell he went. Disappeared in a few minutes. She thought to survive this crazy succession ceremony, she needs Prince Zion. The problem is, she does not know where he went. Then she felt a presence at the side and swung her weapon. Vale asked if she should check first who she is attacking, a monster or a human. She was surprised by his presence and asked, "Is he still alive?" He sighed and said, like her, he thought she died on the first floor. Then she said, "No matter. Did he see Prince Zion?" He was surprised. "Prince Zion?" He didn't. He thinks he's already dead. Lynette objected. "He's alive. He knows this succession ceremony is weird, right? In order to survive, they have to find him." He asked, "What is she talking about?" She clenched her fist and said, "He's very strong." Vale objected, "Nonsense." Meanwhile, the protagonist looked at the demon who was screaming, "Pathetic insects." The protagonist thought, he's stronger than yesterday's monster, but his level is lower than the middle-class monsters in the novel, and his regeneration is weaker than Liushina. If the battle drags on, those outside will notice and come running here. We need to deal with him quickly. The demon screamed, "Idiot! How dare he get distracted?" With these words, he appeared very close to the protagonist and, swinging his fist, shouted, "He won't leave a wet spot on him." Then he delivered his blow and looked at the empty space in front in surprise. MC appeared behind him and apologized, saying that it was his line. The demon was surprised. "What?" Then the protagonist plunged his hand into the enemy's body, and the demon fell to the floor and said, "Damn it, the cursed blood of Agnes." The protagonist looked at his hand and thought, well, that's it. He destroyed its core. Vale at that moment shouted in bewilderment, "How did a demonic monster get into the Imperial Palace?" But MC turned around and looked at them. They lowered their heads, and Vale thought, he just destroyed it. How strong is he if he could resist such a monster? The next second, the protagonist pointed his finger at Lynette and said that she is the second. Then he pointed at Vale and said that he was the third. As he passed them, he added, he congratulated them on passing the succession ceremony. Oh yeah, what they saw here was a secret.
And that's the end of today's recap. If you enjoyed the story and want more episodes, make sure to hit the like button, comment your favorite moment, and let me know which manhwa you want next. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications on so you never miss the next video. See you in the next recap. Stay tuned.